This American woman was visiting Iran for the first time with her husband to meet his family. And right after getting off the plane, her in-laws gave her a chador, the mandatory robe for women. And looking at all the women on the streets wearing the same attire, Betty felt a wave of unease and asked her husband what would happen if she didn't wear it.
She said you'd get arrested.
Even though she understood the seriousness of the situation, she never imagined that just accidentally exposing her bangs would attract armed enforcers who angrily berated her for her behavior. And thankfully, her husband's family pleaded desperately while Betty hastily fixed her headscarf, which finally satisfied them enough to leave. And the frightened Betty couldn't help but complain to her husband.
Look, honey, you gotta be careful. They're very strict about the dress code here.
You must cover all. You must not to be careless. Every single hair that is not covered is like a dagger that you aim at the heart of our martyrs. Yeah.
Getting such treatment right after arriving in Iran, Betty deeply regretted coming to visit the relatives. But what she didn't know was that this was just the beginning of her tragedy. A month earlier, when her husband suggested visiting Iran to see his family, Betty initially refused, knowing Iran was full of chaos and danger. But her husband spoke earnestly and even swore on the Quran, solemnly promising he wouldn't let her or their daughter suffer any grievance or harm. Yet after arriving in Iran, her husband's oath vanished like water poured on the ground. On the first day at her husband's family home, Betty was repeatedly subjected to her mother-in-law's disapproving stares for not wearing the chador while eating, and the lifestyle here made her extremely uncomfortable. In America, she could sleep in every day and leisurely enjoy afternoon time with family, but here she had to wake up before dawn for prayers. Her daily shower habit was considered unclean behavior, and what she couldn't stand most was the chador she had to wear at all times, which was not only physically uncomfortable, but also mental torture. When the family visit was finally about to end, her husband announced an important decision.
We're not going back, we're staying.
What do you mean?
I want us to live in Iran.
And after sending their daughter out of the room, Betty and her husband had a fierce argument. Her American upbringing made it impossible for her to survive in such a feudal society. But no matter how she tried to persuade him, she couldn't change his determination to stay, and the once gentle and considerate husband now seemed like a complete stranger to her.
No, you won't stay here. You can't keep...
You listen to me.
You're my country, you're my wife. You do as I say, understand me?
Yet despite Betty's pleas, he ruthlessly took away her passport and cash. Betty pulled herself together and went to the living room to complain to her in-laws about her husband's tyranny and brutality. But instead of receiving any comfort, they took turns severely scolding her and even blamed her husband for not disciplining Betty properly. And faced with this hopeless family, Betty felt only despair while her husband watched coldly from the side. In reality, he had been a failure in America, constantly marginalized and looked down upon by colleagues, eventually losing his job, and the long-term marginalization left him with no sense of belonging in America. But returning to Iran